VoyMonk vlog number 43. It is 4:50 a.m. Pacific Standard Time and November 29th. And this is going to be the last vlog of the year. That's right, Friday vlog, the last Friday vlog of the year. And I'm thinking to myself about all the things that have happened this year, going into the Christmas season and now going into the new year, and thinking about all the things that are kind of wrapping up. And I'd say that the thing that's weird about kind of the New Year's Eve coming up, and of course New Year's Day, is while Christmas is my favorite holiday, New Year's Day, New Year's Eve, maybe not so much. And I'm certainly not trying to be down or anything like that. It's just my anxiety. It's definitely one of those things it's a milestone because we celebrate the passing of one year to the next. But along with it, I think the custom and the traditions are always to kind of be resolute, kind of turn the page, water under the bridge, and then, of course, make some people declaration, resolutions, and that kind of thing, and goals and that type of thing. And for me, someone who has major anxiety and depression, it is, I don't know, I guess I was probably a lot more excited about it when I was younger than I am now, simply because I was younger. I thought a lot more about possibilities and the way that life would go, and what lay ahead. And for me, I think, as I've gotten older, it isn't necessarily that I've completely shifted away from, having those kind of ideas about what is or isn't. It's just the fact that as I've gotten older, and I think most people do, I think it's understandable that life is a lot less certain for me as I've gotten older versus when I was younger. Because, you can make the plans that you want, but there's so many different things that are almost incalculable that can happen. And I'll be honest, when they do happen, I mean, there's some things that can really set you for a ringer. And the thing is that no matter what the year is, there's always going to be challenges. There's always going to be things that can come up that no matter how much you plan for it, no matter how much you organize, which is personally my biggest thing for this coming year, is to get more organized, to get healthier, to cook. And it's those three things. My ADHD doesn't really allow me to do beyond that. And so I think when I was younger, mostly when it came to the passing of the year, it pretty much fell into the, making goals like most people do, resolutions, and then kind of failing at them in a somewhat spectacular way. I think growing up, whether it was radio or TV, would hear people socially talk about their New Year's resolution. It was usually always followed with many times good humor about how long did you last on your diet, or how long did you last going to the gym and working out, or how long did you last studying a new language, which I think is a pretty big one. I'm not, I think there's probably like a top 10 list of certain resolution and goals and things that are made every year. And of course, if you read the paper and you listen to the experts and the critics on TV or whatever, the millions of different pieces of advice that will go completely unappreciated and usually ignored about what you should and shouldn't do. And for the most part, because we're human beings and our human condition, change is hard. Change is difficult. I mean, sometimes when we make goals and we try to do things that I think change our outlook, change our perspective, or change our habits, I think it's kind of easy to kind of overlook why we have those habits to begin with, why we are at where we're at to begin with. And for me, without me examining in my past what it is that was actually the problem, it didn't really matter what goals that I would set or what resolutions that I would make. They would ultimately, for me, always fail. I think because, as like I said, being younger, had a different perspective than I do now, but also an understanding that an appreciation for guess what? Understanding why things were the way they were to begin with. I mean, I'm not very organized. And so if I make that goal to become more organized, I think it's important to examine why I'm so disorganized to begin with. And before I really got clinically diagnosed with ADHD or major depression or anxiety, I didn't know why those things were completely. I know that for me, some of the times it's just like, well, I just chalk it up to being lazy, or I'll just chalk it up to being, uninspired, or, a procrastinator or something like that. And those are things that are certainly valid, and I'm speaking about myself. But when you have legitimate conditions, and I think this is a very important thing, at least for me growing up, is that we think about our body parts like our legs, our back, our arms, our lungs, everything, right? In a physical respect. But I don't think that, at least for myself, we really pay much attention to our mind, our brain, which is physical. It has to be taken care of. What goes in it very much determines what comes out of it, just like your mouth and the stomach and other parts, right? So the thing of it is that if you don't take care of it, or there's something wrong, just like with any other body part, I think sometimes it can go undiagnosed, overlooked. I think growing up, especially in the 80s and 90s, I think mental health, while it was still kind of starting to become more understandable in terms of why people have certain behavior that they do or fall into certain things in terms of disease and that kind of thing, it wasn't really until more recent it's become something that it was okay to talk about, and people kind of know somebody who knows somebody, or oftentimes have gone through, the same kind of things that, really it's easier to connect the dots when, people aren't ashamed. People are actually talking about the kinds of things that really affect the human mind, the human condition. And, it's ideas are one thing, but of course reality is another. But like I said, the talking about it, the being aware, or even aware that, you don't know what you don't know sometimes. So again, when making resolutions, when making goals and that kind of thing, examining why things don't turn out the way that you want them to begin with, I think in terms of, I'm speaking about myself and my experiences, is it really is just as intricate and just as connected to the physical, meaning your brain, as much as anything else. Like I said, your back, your knees. I mean, as you get older, those things change, and so does the brain. And so, understanding why you have back pain, where it came from, maybe it was an old football injury, maybe it was skateboarding, maybe it was an accident that later on, as you age, comes back to bite you. So, I think New Year's resolutions are great, and I think it's good to make those things as far as to have something and goals to move forward towards. But I think it's also important to understand when you do it, at least for me, as I said, I guess I'm speaking very general. I'm not talking about anyone specifically other than me. But if I've made a decision or I made some choices to do things, you know, I just put like procrastinating. I procrastinate because I have a fear. I have major anxiety, but I have a fear that's based on real trauma growing up. And so being poor, being, in a situation, I mean, you can call them excuses or you can call them reasons, but I would say that they're part of a whole. What comes out has as much to do with what's going in. And there are certainly things that you can do. And in terms of making decisions, it's not as though I feel like I said, I'm speaking for me. I want to emphasize that I can't do. There are some things that I can't do as well in terms of maybe it's because of a lack of understanding. Maybe it's because maybe I'm just not smart enough or intelligent enough. I mean, that's a reality. When I say that, that doesn't mean that that's a permanent situation, but the brain, the mind is very much a part of everything else as everything else goes. And I think oftentimes you can get into conversations about free will and free choice, and that's certainly not anything that I'm attempting to touch at all, or trying to think of the other willfulness or whatever. It's just, I think in order for me to make changes, I've got to have that understanding of who, what, where, why, and how I'm doing something so that I can make those connections in order for me to make a change. Because change is tough for me. It causes anxiety. It causes for me to be depressed. It causes for me, because of the things that I've done and my own experiences and my own choices, for me to hesitate. And so going into this next year, when I talk about getting more organized, when I talk about getting healthier, when I talk about cooking and getting and doing that kind of thing, I'm taking it from the standpoint that I understand so much about where I am and where I don't want to be and why I'm here. And just like with doing these vlogs, I am attempting to do better, to not push myself so hard that I'm doing it and I don't know why I'm doing it, or I'm not doing it for the right reasons, and I may stumble or fall or kind of pull back. I'm also not, I'm also not going to jump into anything as well, just to kind of see what happens a few weeks after the first of the year. So it's self-talk, but it's a real conversation sometimes, which might seem kind of scary. It's like you're talking to yourself. Yeah. There's the conscious and there's the subconscious parts of me that, that's very much a part of what's going on in that brain of mine. Because, there's my avoidant trait, my schisms, my wanting to not be in pain, not to feel sadness, not to, want to do certain things. That is one part of me. And then the other part of me maybe sometimes wants to do something else consciously. But that until I reconcile those two parts of myself and come to some kind of agreement about what I can do without it being forced, without there being trauma involved. Because trauma, I mean, you can push things, you can force things to happen, and as some people say, let the chips fall where they may, or just do it, as Nike once coined the phrase. Yeah, there's a bit more to it for me, as far as like what I'm saying it in my experience and the way I see it. And so, this being the last vlog of the year, those are things I'm thinking about in terms of wrapping up this year, in terms of things that I've done, things that I've been, places I've been, and what I would like to do going in the future. I mean, there's the fears that I have about the reality that I live in, and you know, the simple solution isn't to just do it. Because for me, I have just done it. And, sometimes you just do it until you run into a brick wall. And then if you don't examine why you were running in the first place, you never really get to, or why you didn't get to where you wanted to go or go through, especially when, in addition to everything else, you didn't really observe the brick wall, right? You didn't, you, and of course, I like to say, there's lots of meaningless statements. Like, everything happens for a reason after you're going through something, or every, cloudy day has a silver lining. Things like that. Just sayings and things that are kind of worthless in terms of whatever, I mean, this is precisely why I don't give advice. I don't preach to people. I do not want to sell you anything. I don't want to tell people what to do. This vlog will never be about me trying to coax people or have any kind of agenda, any of that. And it's not a critique. It's not a criticism. It's not something me saying that I'm better than everyone else, because I'm not. I'm far from it. It's just that when I say doing these vlogs, these are cathartic, therapeutic to me, as well as being something that I've always wanted to do. And at the same time, I think this is definitely something that I can use and do to chart my progress and see what I'm doing right or what I'm doing wrong. And also to it, maybe make a connection with others who go through the same things, who feel the same way that I do, in terms of maybe just loving to talk about the things that they love in life and the things that in life that matter, that go beyond just the commercialization or whatever else is available somewhere else that requires you to think or do or feel, or there's some kind of expectation on you besides just being yourself and enjoying and sharing passions and love and experiences in life. And so that, to me, is the community that I want to build. That's what I'm hoping this channel eventually, with as I'm speaking, almost no real views, but that's okay, because I think whoever will need to find this can find this. I have a belief that I can build this channel. I've talked about my personal goals and things, but building this channel, and I think I can do it without selling people anything or selling myself or pretending to be something that I'm not. Because I'm poor as hell. I mean, I'm doing a video voiceover, for God's sakes, on my iPhone Pro 12. It's an old phone. But I'm doing it because parts of me are just doing it. But I know I didn't do it before, and I do understand the times that I've tried to do something like this a couple times throughout, like, the last 20 years, almost 20 years, and didn't. And so, like I said, going into this next year, these are the things that are on my mind. Not just what I want to do and just doing it or making goals and all that, and overanalyzing things of that, but also understanding where I am, who I am, where I came from, what I'm trying to do, and hopefully what I can accomplish reasonably, with the expectations of taking baby steps. As What About, if you ever seen the movie What About Bob, it's a funny movie. There's a lot of stuff that happened around the movie and making the film that is kind of interesting if you ever go on YouTube and read about that or search about it or whatever. But it is a funny film, and I remember specifically Bob taking baby steps. And I've been through that, and I've done that too. And you know, for me having ADHD, I think for the most part, I find that I kind of have this rule of three. Anything I try to remember, anything I try to do, anything that I do, I try to usually keep it in threes in terms of where my focus and where my energy is usually going to always be. I mean, I can get beyond that a little bit, but usually if I'm doing more than three things at different times, I tend to struggle because then as far as memory and as far as getting myself kind of caught up in string in that. So, yeah. I don't like to be on a string and a slave to either my subconscious or my conscious, and I don't like to have that conflict internally either. And I think that's something that I'm also starting to recognize as well. And so, yeah, I think that's going to do it for this final vlog of 2024. I do hope if you've enjoyed listening to me, and even this is the only time, the first time, whatever. There's no expectations here. If you want to listen to my vlogs and how I do it, if you want to do it, you want to join, you want me to listen to you, by all means, let me know. Hit me up. If you got a comment or whatever, do it. It's completely just what I said. I'm building something that is for myself, but I'd like to also create a community where wherever you come from, whoever you are, whatever your background, if you have a passion for the 80s and 90s, if you love talking about different things in life and just living life and not necessarily being specifically competitive or into something else and arguing and talking about a lot of other different things, which there's plenty of other places to do that and for that as far as drama and that kind of thing. But if you like what you hear, then I hope you subscribe. I do hope you come along, and I do hope you more than just that participate. And so yeah. So that's going to pretty much be it for 2024. I'm really feeling good about this vlog, the final vlog for the year. And like I said, I do hope that you, if you're listening, you find some kind of connection. And if you do, like I said, just subscribing, just viewing, just whatever you want to do. There's no expectation. And I really do hope that you're great and healthy on your journey, and hopefully in this next year you are as blessed and as healthy as I'm hoping and struggling and trying to do for me. So until my next vlog, the big next year, hope you guys take care.